my journey with Love Aajkal was, I was quite lost. And of course, Imtiaz Ali, very specific about what he wants and the transitions of character.
What does it mean to be a stylist, and what does a stylist do?
To me, styling is reimagining what that t-shirt is going to look like when someone wears it, when it's shot, when it's on screens. But I also want to say one thing, which is one of my biggest regrets, is if you can learn how to sketch, it's a huge advantage to have.
Are there films that you would recommend?
Of course, Euphoria is a great show.
Welcome and thank you, Shaleena, for being here with us today. We'd love to learn, as a student or a young person who does not know what it means to create a career in the world of styling, even as an industry, right? Actually, let's take a step back, and could you help define what does it mean to be a stylist, and what does a stylist do?
It's more about how you put looks together. It's about planning the whole outlook of what something is going to look like, you know. Right. It's the visualization of what you want something to be, you know. Like if you see a t-shirt somewhere, to me, styling is reimagining what that t-shirt is going to look like when someone wears it, when it's shot, when it's on screen. So I think that is what styling entails.
Right.
Because I think otherwise anybody can go to a store and pick out a white t-shirt.
Yeah.
You know, so for me, that's what styling is.
If I was a young person entering the industry today, what would be the first step that I should take? Like, should I study this? Should I get an internship? What should I be doing as step number one?
Honestly, for me, I feel like hands-on experience in something like this is very important, because I don't think there's any textbook knowledge of what you can do unless you're doing a lot of research and referencing and getting inspired by things. But I don't think there's any textbook language of what you can learn. So I would think work with different people, try different things. So I think interning and being on ground is
that
really
the first step.
Yeah.
And if you're say a 21-year-old, right, just right out of college, and you are someone who is getting their first internship, what should they be expecting to be paid at all? Or how much does a gig like this or like an internship like this pay?
I don't think anybody should work for free.
Yeah.
And this goes both ways. I don't think anybody should work for free. I think there should be some exchange of, I don't know, whatever you decide with the person you're working with or interning with. But I do feel there should be some commercial price put to it.
Right. Could it be like 5,000 rupees? Could it be 10,000 rupees? Or is it more or less? Is there a base level entry point?
I mean, I think an intern would get like 10, 15,000.
Right.
I mean, I think that is a basic...
fair enough.
You know.
Right.
I mean, also we kind of have to... And also with what we do, it's because we travel so much, there are basic things that are looked after over and above these things, like your conveyance and all this kind of stuff. So I do think that is a basic salary.
I understand.
That you would get. But I also want to say one thing, which is one of my biggest regrets, is if you can learn how to sketch. Like if somebody asked me to send them a sketch, mine's like a stick figure and nobody knows what they're wearing. So like... I really lack that expertise, which is just so, because there's so much you want to express. And nowadays, I feel like people want to see things in so much detail because they have the access to be able to do that, you know. But so I do feel like it's a huge advantage to have that skill.
Right.
So
to learn how to sketch.
Yeah, just do a course or something on the side.
What other basic skills do you think would have been useful apart from, like, say, sketching? Like if you think of, like, say, top 5 skills to know as a stylist. Like there's sketching, advantages.
Yeah, advantages. See, I also feel like girls who are working with me and who studied fashion design. Like design is a more technical aspect of things because it's about pattern making, fabrics, all these kind of things. So, I mean, of course, we don't need to know that. But again, then it's an added advantage of, you know how fabrics fall, what works, what's breathable, not breathable, what will look nice, what won't, what's available.
Yeah.
You know, so... of course, that is again a added advantage
Right.
of, and also in terms of like when you're doing a fitting and you have to get things altered. I think the technicality of that is very, very important. However, we are the masters of jugaad when it comes to doing all, like anything is possible.
Right.
So, but I do feel like it is a added advantage. And of course,
Yeah.
now the world is so small. We're working with designers all over the world.
Right.
So
So technicality of fittings, having a basic knowledge of fashion design, and potentially even sketching,
Yeah.
are important skills to have.
yeah, I think that's a big bonus to have
Right.
for sure.
Right. If Shaleena, you were to now look back in time and identify like 5 inspirational sort of references that you'd recommend that young people should consume, like if they want to be better informed about the world and the way styling is evolving, or rather what are the resources that you are consuming?
Right. I think it's just about keeping yourself updated. Like BOF puts out a lot of articles, Business of Fashion, they put out a lot of articles, a lot of information,
Right.
watching, like fashion shows, what's happening at Fashion Week, understanding the trends, understanding different body types, because you're never going to get one body type,
Right.
to style. So I think these are all the things that if you follow and you take into consideration,
Right.
also to understand what necklines work for somebody, what lengths work for someone, shorter if they want to look taller, So I think these are all the things that you should be constantly updating yourself. You can look at any picture and then break down someone's style or why they like
Yeah.
it. These are small things that you kind of understand. But I also feel like this film I just saw, Blink Twice. That's what. And what I think was beautiful about that movie is how Zoe Kravitz has just captured few colors. There are just few colors in the film, like blue, white, green, or whatever. There are 4 or 5 colors, and every frame has those colors, like whether it's the pool or what people are wearing or the greenery around or the paint of like the house where the whole film is shot.
Right.
So for me, these things are really inspiring because, then you translate those things into the clothes that you do or the styling that you create.
Before the brief comes, like there is a moment that you're aware that, okay, I'm going to be working on this project.
Right.
From the moment that comes in to the time that this person has gone, the celebrity or whoever you have styled is now in front of the camera with that look, there is a lot that happens both before and after that look is completed.
Yeah.
Could we go into what that could look stepwise? Like the brief came in, and from there on, what happens?
For example, if we're shooting for an ad film, okay,
Right.
you get the brief on board, you do a call with the client and the agency, you understand the creatives of what the story is happening in the ad. And then we usually have 2 mediums, which is like video and stills. So, those are the 2 mediums that we shoot. Also, just to keep in mind that when you do something for a film shoot or a video shoot, not necessarily the same clothes will work for a still shoot. You might have to make a few adjustments for those things. So you do the call, they give you an idea of what they like, they'll tell you the colors that they want to use. You do a briefing call with the director, and we usually make a deck of the references that we think would work for something like this.
Right.
We run it by our actor to make sure that these are okay, or if they have any preferences or we need to change anything. And then we go back to the client and agency with that deck.
Right.
Then budgets are decided. And then once you get approvals on budgets, then you start the work of actually sourcing the clothes.
Right.
And of course, depending on what is needed, you go to the specific stores. You do a fitting with an actor before, you fix everything, alterations are done. You usually send the images to the client or the agency to make sure that they are also okay with it. And and then it's shoot day, and then you plan hair and makeup and all these kind of things. And also small things like which are important is what is the frame going to be like? What color is the set? These are questions I think are very important. What color the set is? Are you sitting and standing? Are there any other people in that frame? What
Right.
colors are they wearing? What color the backdrop is going to be? So I think these things are very important to ask, understand.
Yeah. And all of these need to complement each other.
Yes.
Also, Shaleena, when you were mentioning earlier, I'd love to know some of the films that you watched, or when you were looking at this as a very serious career opportunity. Are there films that you'd recommend that young people watch?
Of course, Euphoria is a great show. Devil Wears Prada is. I love these movies where they transform into, all this
Yeah.
stuff. And of course, the way Meryl Streep speaks about fashion and language about that, it's very matter of fact,
Right.
which is so nice because
Yeah.
we don't have to make a big deal out of it,
Yeah.
and it really exists in everything that you do. And she talks about how the consequences of you wearing this t-shirt today, you think it's not affected, and why you came to that decision, and you can really get into it.
Right.
So I think that
remember
was really interesting about that film. Of course, it's a film made on Anna Wintour, who's like the legend of fashion.
Right.
But and also to have an opinion that is so strong and so valued is, and I think Anaita was also somebody who started at a time where styling wasn't,
Right.
that big, and then to do films like Dhoom and stuff, where actually, honestly, I feel like you watch them today.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's also really important when you're working. You should style a film where even if you watch it 10 years down the line,
Right.
it still kind of relates to you as, wow, they still look great. I don't think anything should ever become irrelevant.
Yeah. How do I get my first ever important or largest project to work on, which is also going to define the way the ecosystem thinks of me credibly?
So I think it's pretty organic, like you start off and then you're on set with actors.
Right.
And then you kind of transition into being like, the lead. And also, see, I feel like a very important skill is to be able to have the confidence to kind of take a stand on certain things, to think fast, because sometimes in a frame the outfit is not working. You need to be smart enough to kind of be like, okay, we need to change this.
Yeah.
Without that state of panic, because it's not a personal attack on what you've done.
Yeah.
It is about, like I keep emphasizing on the fact that the whole thing looking great,
Yeah,
and all the actors not feeling it. So,
Right.
and you need to be prepared for those kind of things. So I think that a lot of my girls have transitioned into working like very closely with the actors and being
Right.
the only people that are with them. So I
Right.
think it's a very natural progression of you start to source and then you come into the fittings, and it's about how comfortable you become with,
With the
and how good
clients.
you are face to face with people.
Right.
It's also about really maintaining boundaries of professionalism, which is very important,
Right.
because that's all that this is about when you're at work. It's about
Right.
nothing else.
Right.
You got to be professional. So meeting deadlines, being on time, having things really ready and prepped, like before an actor comes into his van, to have the clothes ready, to do a fitting, to also have in all the information, which I find it very important, because sometimes I come on set and I'm like, who's the director? And you can't not know these things. You need to know what the first frame is. You need to know whether they're sitting or standing, or what the progression of things. And of course, it varies between an ad and a film, like a feature film. But, I think these things are extremely important to
Right.
kind of do. And then you transition into working and being, the forefront of doing this. And some of them at the end of their journey, they were like, we want to go independent. Like I wanted to go independent after being with Anaita for a very long time. And of course, I learned a lot, because she did give us a lot of independence in terms of our minds and the way we thought. And She was very open to listening to us.
Right.
We never had to worry about, can we tell Anita our idea? So I think that excitement
Yeah.
really lives on, because then you're not just, running around. Like, I want to know what people are thinking or what their opinion is.
Right.
And I think I've also learned that, like, okay, my way is not working. You tell me what I need to do, because I don't understand this avenue of things.
Right.
So I think that is something that,
Yeah.
is important.
And have you seen this as what is today defining your own aesthetic? I think a lot of people who are young today are trying to find their taste, their aesthetic. What is my magic into this whole thing? How does that get defined, and how does one go about finding that, finding your own sense of style?
I mean, I think I've looked at every picture of mine from years ago and been like, I cannot believe I wore that.
Right.
So it's really about taking something and really making it your own and being like, no, but this is what
Yeah.
works for me. And yeah, I mean, it's so. I mean, you can see somebody wearing bad clothes but have so much confidence.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And bad is what, according to me. So,
Right, of course.
it's a very, individual thing. And also, like, sometimes you meet people and then, they think that that's all you're going to sit and judge or talk about. But
Right.
it's really not.
I want to also switch gears into your start point in this journey of, like, say, Love Aajkal, right? Phenomenal film. I absolutely loved every part of not just what everybody was wearing and all of that. Just it was a very definitive film of our time, according to me. And while you were working on that as one of the first projects that were of that scale, I would imagine, could you take us to what that experience was like for you?
Yeah, so my journey with Love Aajkal was, I was quite lost. And it's also very intimidating to be in front of an actor and,
Yeah.
like, fix their clothes and,
Yeah.
you're very new. But I think it was, and of course, Imtiaz Ali is very specific about what he wants and the transitions of characters and,
Yeah.
all these things are really important.
And Shaleena, in the context of films, you keep going from the one to the next, and there are constantly more and more projects happening. I'm trying to understand from a professional, from a business lens. You know, now you mentioned that you got to stick to the budget. Now, how does this work? Does the production house or the person give you the budget and say, "Hey, here's the money to go and make all the purchases required, and you got to keep within that budget"? How does this invoicing and how does this process work? Like, how does that money exchange?
So basically, when you do a film, you get a costume breakdown.
Okay.
Which comes from the direction team. So they give you a costume breakdown for the full film. You make a budget breakdown.
Got it.
Of like, this scene, this is what we're going to require. This will be the budget. Or if it's an action sequence, then you have the doubles and the action doubles. So you need the same of one costume.
What would be the typical budget of, like, a commercial film for just a schedule? Let's not even break it down into
Oh, you mean for clothes?
for clothes. Yeah, is there a budget?
I mean, the only thing I can kind of say is that, of course, it depends on the kind of film you're making.
Sure.
And of course, we do have the benefit of having great budgets when you
Sure.
have stars in your movie.
Right. Actually, the reason to also try and understand this is because, of course, there is when people say that, like, this is like
But
a 200
huge
crore.
budgets are spent on
Yeah.
costume. I mean, I
Interesting.
don't know, I don't know how to give figures, but yeah.
Yeah. No.
They are, I mean, like I'm saying again, it depends on
Yeah.
the
Of
film.
course.
Like,
Do you believe that it is a smart business for people to get into?
yeah, 100%. Because, I mean, I feel like, of course, it's films and it's ads, it's personal styling. Now, of course, the wedding industry has become such a big thing.
Yeah, right.
Even clients who want like personal styling and that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. So I think it is a huge
Right.
I think it is a big business. For the Ambani wedding, we would have a bunch of designers come in with, swatches and presentations and ideas of what we want to do. And then, there are a lot of steps, and it's a lot of time investment to give if you want that great output,
Yeah.
So I think it's about trust and building relationships. And I feel
Right.
like and for me, I feel like everything has to be a journey. I don't like to work with someone just once,
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
because you can't really, I think the relationship that you build has to be more long term. I
Yeah.
think that's what you have to go into it as.
Right. And Shaleena, what I think that there's so much
Yeah, it's
that
very.
there is to learn about this skill and this art form of being able to put these things together. Um, I have a more I have a more question of like an individual as Shaleena. Do you think at an economy level, this is like I heard this recently and it really intrigued me. Somebody said that it's turning into a curation economy. Like we've been in the creators economy. Now we're going into the curators economy, which is how well do you curate experiences, looks, just whatever you're a part of. I think people are going to have more and more disposable income, and people will want to spend that meaningfully. And they'll now want everything that they do to be more curated. So the future is the person who understands curation. So I always believe that if somebody is looking at it as a curator's economy, do you have a view on that? Number one, and also, do you see yourself when you look at Shaleena as Shaleena? How do you identify with yourself? Like, do you look at it as I am a stylist, or I am somebody creating this vision, or how do you sort of also identify as Shaleena and the direction in which Shaleena is going? It's a very loaded question. I understand. There is a curator side of this
I mean,
world.
I'm really happy to know that this is becoming a curator's economy, because I do feel what we do is,
Curation.
yeah, it is curation.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think we can all live with a little bit of sanity of knowing that it's too personal for any artificial intelligence to kind of take over. But I think I look at myself as I don't even like to say like celebrity stylists and stylists. I feel like, I don't know, I would like to be somebody who has a very specific language that I kind of speak, which comes out in the work that I kind of do.
Right.
And I definitely do want people to watch my work and be like, and to know that it's mine,
Right.
without being 100% sure, because then
Yeah.
I don't want to be predictable or identifiable.
Right.
So I feel like, and also about constantly reinventing myself. But have I diverged from the question? That
No, not at all. I think it's like we're still discussing curators economy, what you thought about it, and the future of where Shaleena is headed.
Oh God, like that's also for me. Like I never feel like I've done enough. Like I really feel like I've just about scraped the surface of.
Wow.
I want to be exploited a lot more. I feel like I have the potential to do it, and
Right.
I think it's great that it's a curator's economy, because I do feel like it is about curation, and today everything is about presentation.
Yeah.
So yeah, I want to do so many things. I'd love to have my own clothing brand, though I have to say I'm very intimidated by that idea.
Yeah.
Because people are doing such incredible things,
Right.
that I would love to enter the market doing something at par or
Right.
better,
And as we also sort of come towards the end of putting a nice ribbon on this conversation, I want to know what you think, Shaleena, about anybody who's entering this today and really considering it seriously. Is there a piece of advice that you'd give them before they enter?
I think not to focus on the glamour and the social media and the credit aspect of what you can get out of it. I think it should be very focus driven in terms of, like, look at this as a school that you're going to, and how much you can learn from it.
Beautiful.
Because I mean, I would really like, I always tell the people who come, I'm like, how would you have, I mean, look at your career as something that if tomorrow Instagram got wiped off, would you still be relevant?
Right.
You know? So I think that is where you should work. And even my girls who do films with me, I'm like, you have to go on this set thinking that you are going to get the next film, not me. You're going to take over
Right.
me and get it. You know, that's the kind of passion you need to work with.
Right.
Not that you're assisting someone else or working for someone else. So, yeah, I think that should
Epic.
be your focus.
Epic.
Not.
No, I love it. So, Shaleena, also to like sort of really double click on the conversation we were having earlier about patience. You know, you mentioned patience, saying how it is incredibly important in this industry. I'd love to know, are there like top 3 skills, soft skills that are required in the industry of being a stylist? What would they be according to you?
I definitely think people skills is important. When I say people skills, I think it's about knowing how to talk to people, just being able to convince them and put your idea across without coming across as aggressive.
Right.
Because nobody likes that. I think people skills is important. And then about gelling well with everybody on set because it does make your life easier.
Right. That's such great advice.
It's about patience.
Yeah.
I think because usually the process of filmmaking and everything is a bit of a process. It takes time to happen. It can get a little boring sometimes because the same outfit is worn. So I think patience.
You know, and also, I mean, when I think about the world of media and entertainment, which is something that you're also working very closely with when you're thinking celebrity styling.
Yeah. And also setting boundaries at some,
Right.
level. Of course, we understand that we're providing a service and that we got to do what we have to do. But you have to know when to say no also.
Yeah, right. And yeah, actually, to the point of being in the media and entertainment world, you also have to sort of put yourself out there for opportunities to arrive.
Yeah.
And I'd love to understand, how are you looking at building these relationships? Like from a networking standpoint, number one, is that important? And number two, if it is important, how does one go about networking in an industry like this?
I mean, honestly, for me, networking in the context of just having good relationships with the people that I've worked with. So there's recall value. I want to keep working with people that I think we can do great work with. So for me, that is networking.
What are the top 3 work ethics, according to you, that someone must or would ideally should follow if they are thinking about a career as being a stylist?
I think being 10 minutes early is being on time, according to me.
Right.
And no matter who you're meeting, where you're going, that is important.
Right.
For me, no matter how qualified somebody is, if they come late, I've already lost interest. I think that is a very sloppy thing to do. So, of course, being on time.
Phenomenal. Shaleena, listen, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. This is yet another episode of The How. Thank you.